If you have built CRUD API but still don't know how to explain it in interview, then this video will fix it. Today I will walk through the most important .NET Core Web API interview question using the same project we have built in the first video of our Build With Me series. No theory overload, just simple explanation you can just talk in interview. Myself Amit Singh, I have 12 plus year of experience as a full stack developer. So we are going to start a Build With Me series where we will build a real project and we will talk about it so you can confidently explain the project in your interview. So let's start with basics. The first question is, what is Web API? A Web API is simply a way for two applications to talk each other on the internet. In the simple term, it is like a waiter in restaurant. The client, like an Angular app, places a request. The API takes it to the database, then bring back the response. In our project, the Angular will call this API to manage the task. So next question is, what is REST? So most probably you heard about the Web API, like this is the RESTful API. So what is the basically REST is? REST is set of rule for designing API. So they are simple and predictable. For example, get data, post, create data, put, update data, delete for deleting the data. Our task manager API follow these REST principles. Let's talk about the HTTP methods. Think HTTP method as action, get, show me the task, put, update the task, post, create the task, delete the task. These are the exactly operation we are implemented in our CRUD API. Let's talk about the ASP.NET Core. So the first question is, what is the controller? Controller is class where we write the logic to handle the incoming request. So when request come like API/task, it will go to the controller first. In the controller, we have to decide what code we need to run and what response we have to return to the request. In our project, we created a task controller to manage task operation. Routing decide which request will go to which method. For example, get API task will go to the get all task, post API task will go to the create task. It is like a map that direct traffic to the right place. What is dependency injection? Dependency injection means instead of creating object manually, it will be provided by the framework whenever it is required. The question is, why it is useful? Because it make your code cleaner, easier to test, easier to maintain. In our project, we have injected DbContext object using the dependency injection in the task manager controller constructor. iAction result versus action result. iAction result is general response type. Action result T allow us to return both data plus status code. For example, you can return OK inside bracket your task object or not found status. Let's talk about the Entity Framework Core. Entity Framework Core is ORM. ORM in the sense Object Relational Mapper. ORM means it let us work with database using C# instead of writing the SQL query. So instead of writing select star from the tasks, we write context.task.toList. Much simpler and safer. What is DbContext? DbContext is a bridge between database and our application. It manages database connection, query, saving data. In our project, we have created app DbContext class. What is DbSet? If you went through the previous video, then you must see that we have declared the task as a DbSet inside the app DbContext class. So the question is, what is the DbSet? DbSet represent table in the database. So when we created DbSet in our app DbContext class, that means we have the task table in our database. So that we declare as a DbSet in our app DbContext class. So when we use the Entity Framework Core, even the previous version that called Entity Framework, so we have the two options, database first approach and code first approach. So What is the difference between both? What is the database first approach and what is the code first approach? So again, if you went through the video, then you must notice that we use the code first approach. We have created first task models and then we run the migration command and we created the task table in the database. So that is the code first approach, where you create the code first and then you create the table accordingly your codes. So the next question is, how EF code does connect to the database? So the answer is using the connection string which we declare in our app setting.json file. It tells EF core about the server name, authentication detail and the database name. If you notice, we call save change async when we were creating the task in API. So what is the save change async do basically? So that question might be come in your interview. So you have to prepare for that. What basically save change async do? So EF code track your changes in memory. Basically whatever you doing the operation changes, add, update, delete. So it's tracked by the EF core in the memory. When you call the save change async, so that time it execute the actual SQL command and send to the server. So basically it's run insert, update, delete command when we call change as async. So if we not call that, then our data will not affect in the database. It will show in the front end, but it will not affect in the database. So it is must you have to call save change method. So next question is, how CRUD work in our project? Number one, create. So we have created the post endpoint for create a task. So that is the create operation. Then we have created the put endpoint for the update task. So that is the update operation. We have the get all task and get task endpoint for get task, and then we have the delete endpoint for deleting the particular task. This is the whole life cycle of data. Now come to the most important part, how to explain your project in interview. This is the simple structure you can use in your interview to explain the project. This project is a task manager API project which I built to create, update, delete the task using the ASP.NET Core, SQL Server, EF Core. It allows user to perform the CRUD operation on task. I implemented REST endpoint, database model and API controller. The goal was to understand how backend handle data flow. These types of explanations show clarity and confidence. If you want to learn how to explain your project confidently in the interview and want to learn how to build the real full stack project step by step, then subscribe for more videos. In the next video, we will connect our API project with the Angular project and we will see how the whole application works. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.